everybody. Good evening. It's 7 o'clock on a Monday, the 24th of March, kicking off another great week on this show, and I hope you are ready for some stuff to sink your teeth into, because we've got great guests all throughout the week, great topics lined up all throughout the week. I couldn't even think of them all this morning during the coffee meeting, but in short order, I remembered everything. Tonight we have Jason Bermas coming back, and that'll be fun because we're going to talk about a lot of things that were left over from the first time that he was on this year, which is only about a month ago. And it just so happens to still be relevant, all the leftover stuff. That is largely Elon Musk's involvement in Trump 2.0, AI, and a few other things. Just the robot future that's been predicted for us, as well as the proposed missions to Mars. And I want to just hear Jason talk about it a little bit, and that's what we will do. And there will be some cultural items just, sprinkled into this one, and hopefully we'll end in a nice, snappy fashion before I go and I kick off session 4 of 5 with this latest book club. Session 4 of 5 for The Big Fisherman by Lloyd C. Austin. Lloyd C. Austin. I'm thinking about the damn defense minister. Lloyd C. Douglas. Lloyd Austin. Oh my gosh. Mashed potatoes some nights, ladies and gentlemen. I should have taken my keto brains a little while ago, but I felt like a Superman this morning. Now I just kind of feel like Clark Kent. Let's just keep rolling, shall we? Tomorrow, Larry Sharp is going to be on the show. I can't wait to do that one. I really hope that nothing gets in the way of it, because it is going to be not only very educational for those of you who don't remember his last appearance on this show years ago, but it's actually going to be very relevant because of the Department of Education, the whole Department of Education thing, a lot of 14th Amendment, 10th Amendment, 14th Amendment versus the 10th Amendment are arguments going on out there. And what happens if the Department of Education is gone? Well, I want to talk to Larry about all of his ideas that he had for New York if he were to have become governor. He ran as the Libertarian Party candidate for governor over here, I think around 2016 or so, I think. And he had such great ideas. All of them had to do with how do we get away from the federal government and just do what we're supposed to be doing here, and implementing really cool ideas that not only save money, but actually help out both, the children who are being educated here, or adults who are looking for health care, or whatever the hell else. And that'll be tomorrow. Lauren Conlon will be on the show with us on March 26th. That's on Wednesday night. I'm either going to be recording the show early or starting it around 7:30 or 8 o'clock. You'll see what is. There's not going to be an off night, but I have a little bit of a T-ball clinic with Aurora. It's not mandatory, but she should definitely go, and I don't want to miss that. So no matter what, we will be live on Wednesday night, whenever the hell it is. What I have learned in the last hour is that there, for T-ball, for 4 years old and 5 years old, for this year and next year, there's one game during the week, either on a Monday, a Tuesday, or a Thursday. So from April until June, there's going to be one day during the week. Hopefully I'll have the entire schedule given to me up front that I'll just be able to be a little bit flexible with. But we will not be canceling shows. Don't worry. Don't worry. I'm telling that to myself, too, because I hate the thought of canceling shows. March 27th, that's Thursday, Top Lobster and Dave from the Nephilim Death Squad going to go down some Mount Olympus rabbit holes that night. And then Jay Gulanello on Friday, the 28th. We'll just do another JFK update and a few other things, because really awesome things are going on, including, I haven't seen anything else on it. Of course, this morning it was getting around that Health and Human Services, Robert Kennedy Jr. has been circulating his intent to try to get pharmaceutical ads off the television. I have that same wish. Does it happen? I would love it. I would love it. If I can't see Camel Joe anymore, then I don't want to. I don't want to see all these actors pretending like mowing the grass has never been nicer because their ass isn't leaking anymore, or some other drug that they're on, or just everybody just mowing the lawn or having a barbecue, and they've never had a better time in life. Don't give me that bullshit. I know that they're worried about every day. I know what they're worried about. That drug did not take anything away from them. Anyway, so we'll see where that all goes, and perhaps Jay will have a little something on that going down the line. Here's a little something for the cultural feeder. The reboot of Snow White is an absolute disaster, as we knew it would be. And it's not that I'm cheering it on. It's just it was always going to collapse under its own weight, and I like that stupid, ridiculous people who have been created by this culture to think that their abhorrent behavior in public is somehow, a triumph over some sort of a past injustice or a bad bitch moment or something like that. Walt Disney Studios' Snow White domestic box office debut was off to a very sleepy start, delivering ticket sales of $43 million in North America this past weekend, already at a low end of a major theatrical production. There was a mix of reviews for a woke remake of the 1937 classic. Okay, all reviews aside, because I definitely have heard a few myself, but this was just, it was doomed. It was doomed. Let's see here. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs cost Disney about $250 million to produce. The remake is plagued with controversies that will likely cost Disney at the box office, including what Bloomberg described, quote, the remake, a tale of female empowerment. Instead of trying to find a husband, the new Snow White leads a Joan of Arc like rebellion against the evil queen, played by Gal Gadot. Yes, that's exactly what we wanted to see. We wanted to see Snow White in her dress with the puffy shoulders leading a rebellion. That's it. Oh, please miss me with this bullshit. But aside from knowing what they're going to try to do with the feminism stuff, I mean, we got, because of people like Peter Dinklage, okay, the world's most famous dwarf actor. Well, one of them, I mean, Warwick Davis. We have that. That's the only two I know. But either way, Peter Dinklage, I remember back in like 2022 or 21, this has been on the stove for a couple of years now. He was completely, he was fine with the whole, very progressive that they brought in a Latina to be Snow White. But I can't believe that you're still going to be telling the story of 7 dwarves who live in a cave and all that stuff. You think, if I were Peter Dinklage, I'd be like, okay, there's just 2 things. Make me Doc. That's number 1. And number 2, I will find the actors. I'll go out there and find the other 6 dwarves. Let's get this. This is huge. And instead, we got, at least in the previews, because I'm not going to go watch it, but we got Nintendo 64 GoldenEye characters for these weird, demented dwarf-looking things. And then you have Rachel Ziegler, who spent the last 2 years working overtime in every public appearance to make sure that the movie bombed. Every public appearance, she went out of her way to make sure that the movie bombed. Okay? That's it. Did the whole modern audience pandering about sex and race and feminism and of course, the audience will be blamed in the end for their terrible team effort in destroying what was a remake that nobody wanted. So I guess we weren't ready for that, but our kids are going to love it, right? And even that, no. Can't call the kids racist and phobic for not liking your ridiculous little fever dream. And that's what I've been hearing from even friends who brought their children to go see it, that they're like champing at the bit to get the hell out of the theater. It's just weird. The whole thing is weird. I saw the very tail end of this thing. It was on what the hell was it? It was on it was on Twitter. And everybody's dressed in absolute pearl white. And it's and they're dancing around, and it's so weird. And everybody, it looks like it was filmed in Jamaica or something like that. But everybody's wearing pearl white, and I'm like, what is this fever dream? What the hell is it? Oh God, I'm so happy I don't live in that world. I'm so happy I don't live in that world. There are people out there who are excited about it, who aren't paid by Disney. That's scary. I just don't want to be in that household. Other than that, you want to talk about fever dream? Here's one for you. KFC. KFC just released a new, it's been making the rounds about 10 days ago. I think it's KFC UK. Either way, Kentucky Fried Chicken. You want to see what the latest commercial of theirs came out on the internet? Everybody's commenting on it. Take a gander at this one. Hold on. For those of you who are in podcast land, they are in a forest somewhere, and this bubble jacket came down and it enveloped some girl, and they're all dressed in brown. It's like men and women, everybody's whatever, and there's this pulsing, booming sound, almost like the impact of a Tyrannosaurus Rex footprints from Jurassic Park, and there's now an approaching golden egg there. Nothing to do with chicken so far, but I think we're getting to the egg. They're carrying the egg. Some strange jungle cult. Egg monks. All dressed in brown. Oh, yes. And now the main character, this I don't know, this 20-something-year-old guy, he's coming to this big lake or this river of what is obviously gravy. And he's been picked up by this girl. He's being carried like a plank of wood. And he's going to be baptized in the gravy right now. And he has now been lifted from the gravy, and he's no longer a person, but he's a chicken strip. He's been turned into a chicken strip. And there is the golden egg, the golden chicken egg. I don't know about you, but I'm never eating KFC again anyway. Mock baptisms in gravy is just a little strange for me. But what are they really saying when a woman dunks a man into gravy for a baptism and he emerges transformed into a chicken strip? What do you think that is? In front of a congregation of jungle monks who worship a golden chicken egg. Yeah, maybe I'm reading into this a little bit. Perhaps I am. But I just think it's better. There are better ways to advertise your chicken than human cannibalism. So, I mean, we know this at the very least. At the very least, this is some of the worst chicken on the planet. But from what they're messaging right now, is it even chicken? Well, I mean, when they tell you who they are, I guess. I mean, in the late 80s, early 90s, it should have been obvious at that point that Burger King, you remember the Buddy Burgers? They still had them in the 90s. I think they started in the 80s, though. Those Buddy Burgers, I think we could have all just assumed that the Buddy Burgers were not the best quality meat. But no one needed to make the Burger King vid kids baptize each other in barbecue sauce. to want the burgers. It's like you have to go out of your way to send a message like this, because if you just wanted to get people interested in your chicken strips, you could just show a nice steaming golden pile of them and, flanked by people having a really good time as they eat. That would have been nice. An apple turnover. Just what the hell is going on in people's minds? Who the hell are these companies hiring? It's just so strange. Anyway, from KFC to Disney, it's all the same bullshit. We will be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go anywhere. Jason Bermas is coming right up.
You tune in at your own enjoyment, because it is the best show since the beginning of time. It has technological advancements and a more sophisticated approach. But like every great awakening that has preceded it, it has one iron rule. Logic is a friend and truth is essential. You are now entering Quite Frankly. Now take off your pants. And jacket.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up.
Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life.
It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back.
Does anybody else want to stay?
Let's ride!
All right. A little thievery corporation for you. We're working on a lot of really interesting things behind the scenes. I can't wait to share them with you. There's going to be a couple of really nice additions to the schedule soon. But all in good time. I just hate waiting to talk about things, but I've learned the hard way. Wait until you can talk about things, because if they don't work out, then you're just sitting there holding a bag filled with the pieces of your broken dreams. So, welcome. We have something I want to lead with, and then we're going to bring on Jason Bermas. Here it is right here. This is from the Wall Street Journal. All robot assault. Okay? You'd have to imagine that this was coming at some point. All robot assault opens the new chapter in frontline warfare. Ukraine's drone-only attack was the first of its kind and is set to carve a path for more fully automated warfare. In a snowy forest not long after dawn, a four-wheeled drone churned through a muddy forest. It could have been a nursery rhyme at some point. Its target, a Russian bunker, where it eventually arrived and exploded. More drones followed. Some moved on, and including one's mounted with machine guns or packed with explosives. Others came by air, dropping munitions and providing a view of the battlefield. The attack on the Ukrainians in December coordinated unmanned and land and aerial vehicles on a scale that hadn't been previously done, marking a new chapter of warfare where humans are largely removed from the front line of the battlefield, at least in the opening stages. And boy, oh boy, does this really sets the stage for a lot of the things we were not able to talk about the last time Jason Bermas was on, and it goes hand in hand with new developments since then. Jason Bermas, filmmaker, show host, all around interesting guy to talk to. How the hell have you been, my friend?
I'm well, man. Thank you so much for having me on about this very important topic, because not only is this happening at a rapid pace, it's happening also in that public-private partnership arena that I think that people really need to understand. And a lot of this stuff, although you're still going to have the Lockheed Martins of the world, et cetera, Raytheons, is a new rebranding into AI and tech. And a lot of it also has to do with DARPA. So, just out of the gates, to kind of talk about the private aspect here, I'm just going to go to this article right here. It should be centered up for everybody to see it. Google imports ex-Israeli spies who automated Gaza genocide. Now, just a week ago today, Google bought them for like 64 times their valuation. It's a company called Wiz, Frank. And that company, it's W-I-Z, is basically fully founded and employed of ex-8200 unit Israeli IDF members. Frank, are you familiar with Unit 8200?
No. I've never heard of it before.
So Unit 8200 has actually been around for a very long time, and they're digital disinformation darlings. That's what we should be calling them.
Wow,
because yes, they are the ones not only writing the code, going with the AI, bringing in the programs, but also actively combating misinformation and disinformation on the other side.
Okay. So it serves a noble purpose, you mean?
All I'm saying is you have a private company, Google, that already has a ton of military industrial complex ties, many of which are in space and directly with NASA, okay? And if you think SpaceX is different than NASA, that's part of the rebranding. That's fooled you. It's the same damn thing. And in fact, one of the other things that I'm going to show you today is you can go to these people's YouTube. When I say people, I mean entities. I'm going to show you the DARPA YouTube really quick. I'm going to show you the NASA YouTube.
So Jason, before you go to there, I got to say, when you're saying that whole rebranding going on, regardless, and I know there's a lot of people who just say, oh, this whole rescue of the astronauts, it's real, it's fake, it's what, I don't trust anything out of NASA, whatever the hell it is. The one thing it does serve, and I saw it right off the bat, is that we went to SpaceX for help, not NASA. The fact that, that was allowed to happen, that the knights and white horses that were able to come in were arriving on a dragon and not a Saturn V.
But here's the thing, and people go check out the YouTube for themselves. We'll go to the DARPA one a little later, but they carry all of those. Okay, so in other words, every time SpaceX does those things, that's where I'm watching it, Frank. And to their credit, my friend, they do give you an unadulterated kind of raw feed all the way through. If you're actually watching these things, they're 4, 8, 12, sometimes 16 hours long, right? So when you talk about that rescue mission in the ISS, and we're going to get into that a little further, yes, the big thing is it's SpaceX, and they're building the narrative that Elon Musk saved them. And there's also the narrative out there, which may or may not be true. The astronauts on the ISS have kind of hinted at it, that basically Biden didn't want to employ the Dragon capsules. And the reason that they'd have to is because that's the rebrand. NASA's not really in that business anymore. They're pushing that to the side. But they've partnered with Google in artificial intelligence and quantum computing really since their inception. So what does this have to do with AI weaponry, Unit 8200, Wiz? You also remember, I think we discussed it the last time I was on the broadcast, Frank, that Google came out and said that now they're openly going to be programming for the Defense Department via AI, okay? Now, you just mentioned the largest scale attack so far, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's really only the largest scale attack in the sense that it was in one day. And what do I mean by that? So this company that they bought are the ones that were utilizing the Lavender AI the ones that targeted the $34,000 terrorists that were in that database and systematically killed them. And we also have to understand, you talk about those drones, so many of those drones. I mean, when you're talking about a drone anyway, you're talking about something that's remotely controlled, maybe with access at this point, because so many of them are AI. We could go back, I think, 5-6 years to the first drone human kill where the drone recognized that human being and killed them. And it had nothing to do with a human. There was no access of me going, yes, we're going to do this. So now I do want to bring you into DARPA, okay? So check this out. Everybody go check this out. This is their own website, and I encourage people to check this out. So the SABRE program, that's the second video here, okay? Just a minute, 23 seconds. You see them showing you on the battlefield the new operations that are going to be using the DARPA dogs. You see the mobile drones right there, the sky drones, less and less human beings. And then right here, and folks, these are in the last 2 weeks. This is like kind of the reveal. Red Sea, creating self-healing computers. I'm going to explain what that means in a moment. But even if you get down to just here, and I encourage everybody to go listen to this from a month ago, voices from DARPA, more than microchips. Well, Frank, we've discussed how many times now bio-nanotechnology, and now they're starting to really roll that out as well as the norm. So when we're talking about on the battlefield with SABRE, they also have this large-scale triage training exercise. And for those that don't know what the terminology triage, yes, you have triages of troops, but usually when we're talking about a triage, we're talking about medical support. Fully integrating AI robotics, period. I mean, automated DARPA dogs bringing the things. Then you move over to the quote unquote self-healing computers.
Oh, okay? Is this Microsoft's fourth state of matter?
No. All right. So it's a lot of hokum to control things, in my opinion, Frank. Okay. So again, I don't go in. I'm going to be playing this on my show probably later tonight, but basically it's 90 seconds and you've got somebody there basically, kind of talking to you like a child, but I know enough about hardware and software and what they're kind of presenting on the screen to beat around what they're saying. They're essentially saying that the hardware that is created, when it gets compromised for any reason, first of all, they want full control of firmware. And for those that don't know what firmware is, it's the type of software that is based inside of each part of hardware that's there, right? So your CPU, your motherboard, they're all going to have, your motherboard especially is going to have a type of firmware in it, okay? And basically they're talking about bringing all these people together so they can lock in firmwares to backdoor things. And if something goes wrong, they can have either the computer reprogram it on the spot or utilize another automated robot to go in and replace the hardware where the problem is. All right, kind of eliminating human beings and taking a monopoly on the marketing of software. And I think that this is going to get into the commercial arena. So we're moving into this ever more digitally automated world on all levels, but especially warfare. And that should be extremely concerning to people, especially when we start getting into the space arena that I know we're going to talk about, Frank.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know. Have you seen have you seen this whole thing about Microsoft and this new? I don't know. It's like a new form of matter, they call it. You know how everything comes in a liquid, gaseous, or solid state? What they're talking about, and I was going to talk, I think we're going to maybe discuss this a little bit more on Friday. Where the hell is it?
February 19th,
Video advice. This is what I had found. Let me see. Let me put it up on the screen right here. Put you up there with me too. This is 12 minutes long, so we're not going to be able to watch it. But this just came out. Microsoft didn't find a new form of matter. They found something much worse. And what they are talking about this, they're essentially talking about quantum mechanics here. Where,
I have heard.
Okay. This
Okay.
is,
But
and I can see how this can be. Go ahead.
So I didn't see this thing in February. I may have saw the headline that went with it when they're talking about this matter. And this is important, actually, Frank. And this is one of the reasons that NASA and Google have that partnership. So much. First of all, when you had the quantum annealing machines, the D-Wave machines that they claimed quantum supremacy with back in 2019, I would encourage people, again, go to YouTube. Go check out the Google NASA partnership, and they'll show you basically they were creating these large scale black boxes. You can look these up, D-Wave machines, where they had to mimic space. In other words, up into, I believe, the exosphere, not the thermosphere, that temperature, okay? Just to cool the chip and to be on this thing to utilize that. Now, in order to do that, they do a lot of the experimentation in low Earth orbit, or what they call microgravity, okay? So that's a place where they can get into that quantum state. Now, the next big thing that we've been told for so long, and now the new reveal is they're stabilizing this, is it's extremely unstable. And when these quantum mechanics occur, we're talking microseconds. There's no stability to do it outside of that temperature. I think this is the reveal that now they are stabilizing these quantum mechanics, and you no longer have to be at that extreme temperature. Okay, so now, so basically, what's happening is they're not getting it ready for total commercial use, but they're getting ready for the type of commercial use that will be in partnership with the big companies that work with them, right? And this will be the new human engineering working with AI in the quantum realm. And, you know, Brett Weinstein, to his credit, okay, I think it's Brett, not Eric. He's the, which one's the scientist?
I don't know. I think it's Brett.
I think it's Brett too. He just gave a lecture, and look, it's got a lot of grandiose, gravitas, a lot of stuff that I don't necessarily enjoy, certainly not in line with the guy. But as we discussed, and I believe we showed last time on this, at the very end of this 12-minute presentation, he starts talking about that Mark Andreessen quote. Remember that one we were talking about where he was in the AI meetings, the Defense Department told him they were going to wall it off the same way that they had walled off large scales of actual physics from academia and research, right, during the Cold War.
I remember.
Yes. So basically, he says that in 1975, they started to put out the string theory stuff that leads to the metaverse. He doesn't address the metaverse, but I believe it's quantum gravitational force is the key. All right. And I think that he rightly recognizes that 50 years ago now, they put that out there as a red herring for people to be on a rabbit trail, and they knew it didn't exist. Okay. And that's why when we later talk about going to Mars, that's fiction. That is not real. By any means, humans are not going to Mars with any type of technology they have revealed to us at any point in time. Now, whether or not they have other technology and they've sent people other ways, that's up for debate. But I promise you, you know, this talk of that's fiction. That's not real. They're weaponizing space right now and have been in low Earth orbit, below low Earth orbit, where they have them mainly on balloons, you know, and I'm not a space is fake guy. I want to make sure everybody understands that. I just understand the numbers, the physics, the type of stuff that they have publicly revealed in their white papers, and what does not make sense. And we've weaponized space since the 80s. The real question is, how far does it go? And what are the treaties that are already in place? And let me give you an example. The ISS, I totally do believe is real. Okay, now I think they faked stuff there. I don't know if everybody saw these guys get back, but they are banged up. They were taken out on stretchers. Like four people, like, hold them up. They're taken out on stretchers. The one woman, if you see the pictures, she's already got the IV in her arm, and they're kind of covering it up as she's kind of held up to talk to people. Space is dangerous. Like, it's as dangerous as it gets. So you want to automate that as much as possible. And rockets, let's be real. The Russians are up there. The Chinese are up there. Frank, how far have the Russians been into space miles wise? And I'm going to give some people some numbers so you can kind of think about where it might be. They tell us the ISS is about 250 miles, okay, which is about 75 miles before you hit the thermosphere, which goes on for another like 600 plus. So that's 250 miles, Frank. We know that they tell us the moon is between like 235 and 250,000 miles away. How far have the Russians gone? And then I'm going to ask you the next question. How far have humans gone since then?
I don't know. I don't know to either of them.
So the Russians didn't even hit 900 miles. Okay.
For all time.
All time. I think something like 891. You can look it up right now. Okay. So not even 1,000 miles. Okay. Remember, that would be 1/250th of getting to the moon. Forget about coming back. That's the moon. And again, space moves. That's why it's a different number. You look at Mars and they tell you this fictitious number of like 6 to 9 months and like 34 million miles away. I mean, think about that when we're talking about space. Now, we were talking Dragon capsules earlier and this rescue mission, right? It didn't get a ton of play, but 4 months ago, they sent up a 4-person mission in a SpaceX capsule that was supposedly, and one of the big debunking things with the moon landing is that human beings can't go beyond the Van Allen radiation belts. And that's about 1,000 miles up, right? So supposedly, 2 women and 2 men, and this is the furthest any woman has ever traveled in space. Again, it should have been huge news. It wasn't. Is 1,200 miles. And then they came back down. That's still really short of what they're telling us. If you look at impact of space debris with anything, at the speed you're going, forget about it. So now you're talking about going into tens, hundreds of thousands, millions of miles of space, which, by the way, is not just a vacuum. That's ludicrous. Just based on what we know about our ionosphere, stratosphere, exosphere, thermosphere, they all vary, Frank, right? And to think that space is uniform is also like cartoon level. So, you know, it's a Hollyweird idea that we're going to any of these places. And by the way, last year we were supposed to go to the moon again, human beings, all right? Didn't happen. Do you know when they've told us we're going now?
Oh, 2031, right?
They're saying 2027.
No. I thought that they're sending robots in 27, and they want to try humans in 29 or 31.
You may have gotten that one right, and I may have gotten it wrong. I just saw that they posted.
Either way, I'm like, it doesn't make any sense to me. You know,
you notice they've changed the whole discussion, Frank, from going to the moon and having moon bases to jumping it off to Mars. That's not. I'll say this: there is zero chance that rockets can take human beings. And remember that rocket, all that goes away. You're in a capsule at the end of the day as their spaceship. that rockets can take human beings safely in a small ass capsule to any of these places. Period. We don't know what's really beyond, 5,000-10,000 miles in space. We're taking all these people's words for it. There's plenty of footage that there's activity going on the moon. And I think that that's human. I think that's technology, whether it's drones or not. Maybe they're lying about how far the moon is away. I don't know. But what is it? Crow 6 something or other.
Crow 777.
Crow 777. I may not agree with his conclusions, okay, on what he's filmed, but clearly there are craft on the moon operating. Okay, it's not a debate. So they've lied to us about that. They've lied to us about the weaponization of space. They're lying to us every day that we're going to Mars. And then at the same time, the people that give us our magic box and our kids' little laptops that they learn on all day, They're partnered with the military industrial complex, not just on track, trace, database surveillance, but AI weapon systems that will categorize and kill your fucking ass. Like,
I know, you know, Jason, this goes to such a degree. The reason why it's so hard for people to believe anything these days, and I know that you don't trust NASA nearly any of the data or the imaging that they produce, but I honestly, until right now, I didn't know what your thoughts on space were in general. If you thought Mars was a real place, or if it was a code word for something, if we're talking about jump rooms or, you know, portals, or if it's actually a galactic location. But you know, I hear the same things that everybody else does, where they talk about, you know, in one instance, you'll have somebody like a Buzz what's it called? Buzz Aldrin or Neil Armstrong, bragging about what they were able to do in '69 with less computing power than we all have in our pockets with like the first iPhone that came out. And then when we ask anybody that represents NASA as to why we stopped going up there, or could we go back today if we needed to retrieve something from the moon or anything like that, they'll outright say, we don't have the technology anymore. We threw it all away, or
he's on the ISS right now. I know what clip you're referring to. He's there right now. Let's take it back for a minute, because I want to say that I am dorking out. Give me 1 second here.
All right.
But like, again, when I say that I want proof, all this stuff is like, you name it, like mostly like mainstream, NASA produced, and I mean, this one's a 5 DVD set. Okay, so like this is, I think this goes Gemini all the way up and through the Challenger disaster. Right, they're doing something up there, right, Frank? And I do believe all these things are places. You know what they're sharing, I'm not sure. And I think there's too much documentation to say otherwise. Now, I also think that NASA is a hotbed for all black ops. And let me repeat that, all black ops, okay? So some of these astronauts, when you join these programs, you're giving it all up, bro. And what I mean by that is, first of all, they're already taking the military hotshots. Like, back in the day, NASA, when it first came into being, a lot of people wanted to be a part of it. You would apply for NASA, but you might have been talented at something else. You ended up at a black site. Like, read Annie Jacobson's Area 51. So many of those people thought they were going to go work for NASA, and then use NASA as a front, by the way. They would tell people they worked for NASA. They weren't. They were working in the black sites. So who knows what these people actually believe? And remember, this is at the same time as like MK Ultra, Artichoke. I'm just saying that astronauts give it all over. I'm not saying that they're brainwashed into thinking one way. I'm saying that's a possibility. Then, you know, we're going with these. Like, all right, what you're looking at right here is one of the biggest satellites ever created. They made that thing. I watched, you know, those videos. It's massive. You know, just like everybody talks about, like the NASA pool at the research center. I've been well aware of that for many, many years, where they train and all those other things. I think it's fascinating. The vomit comets, another thing I've went over. My biggest contention with the satellite imagery is I lean towards it's real, and I've looked at so much of it, right? And I realize some of it's touched up with Photoshop, etc. But the black and white imagery, especially of things like, you know, Saturn, etc., it's mind blowing. I would just say that they may not be sharing with us how they're moving that thing around, okay, in these realms, if they're able to get it out there. Again, other nation states don't have that type of technology, and that's another question as to why they don't. But like I said, when you look at the ISS, there's clearly some kind of partnership. And remember, I can't reiterate this enough. Russia was kicking our ass in the space race.
And and then, and like you said, I'm glad you said that, because when you said that the farthest they've ever gone, it's like 800 miles, or what was it again?
891, I think. Why don't we do it live? How far? And by the way, they're the first ones with a multi-manned mission. They were the first ones to do that spacewalk, right? You can watch that the guy, flying out, the very first cosmonaut, and the first woman in space, also Russia. Has Russia gone in space via miles? And let's see. That's the Mir space station. Why is it so hard to get an answer from Google anymore? Have you noticed that?
You should just ask Grok.
Dude, Grok lies worse. I get Grok to apologize it lies so much.
You know,
we're gonna go.
But like you said, 800, whatever it is, it's not 200, it's not 200,000 miles. That's the whole point. And for the U.S. to be getting their asses handed to them during the space race in the 60s, where everything we're putting up in the air, I mean, literally just explodes while Russia is checking boxes and then all of a sudden we shoot past them and get to the moon. It's an unlikely underdog story. I can see why a lot of people wanted to believe it, and I don't know. I have days where I wonder about where I stand on the whole thing, like what the production was about, what we have done since then. But I guess more to your point about what NASA is really a front for, it sounds just like every war zone in the world on the ground. I mean, what is the stated intent for one conflict or another? And what purpose is it really serving? And, I don't know. I have a lot of things I want to talk about here that actually AI and technology bring us back down on the level of the earth. And then we can talk about other things, but it's all really intertwined. And I'm just wondering, well, first of all, did you find the answer that you're looking for?
You know what? I'm sitting here on the Wikipedia of all these guys, and you'd think it'd be an easy thing to find, right? But because here we go. Speed and altitude records. Highest altitude in crew, they're going to 220C. Apollo, man, they just don't want to tell you about the Russians. Here, I'll give you an example why this is not happening. So they integrate Russia with the United States. They don't even have to talk about how high the Russians got on any of these. So like I type in Russia and they give me everybody, right? And the altitude records. So I have not been able to find this answer, and I should be able to. I mean, it's the craziest. They want to tell me how long I didn't even ask that. This should let everybody know that Google is completely biased and programmed. That should be an easy thing. Yeah, why don't we ask Grok? You're right.
Grok, I just did it for you. Says the farthest that the Russians have gotten into space in terms of human presence is about 400 kilometers. While their robotic probes reached the moon at roughly 384,000 kilometers, no Russian or Soviet mission has gone beyond the moon into deeper space, such as Mars or beyond, with humans aboard. So 400.
I tripled it. Like 400 kilometers is like 340 miles.
So that's just crazy to me that's the farthest they've gone. But we just went from one failure after another to winning the gold, and USA, right? USA. Okay, so I gotta ask you this. We're staying with Elon Musk, and he was talking about AI in 10 years. What's going now? Obviously, within 10 years, we're going to be on Mars. But if we're going to talk about this appearance that he had on the Ted Cruz podcast, here's a little bit of what he said in 10 years. He foresees that there's going to be billions of humanoid robots on the earth. 90% of all miles driven will be driven by self-driving autonomous vehicles. This is 5 years from now. It'll be 50%, he says. As far as jobs that'll go away because of AI, he says goods and services will become close to free because billions of robots will provide you with anything that you want for the next to nothing. What's the reason to live at that point? We're just essentially just being cradled. He says that the challenge will be fulfillment. How do you drive fulfillment in people's lives? When asked how real the prospect of AI robots taking over the world is, Elon says 20% in 5 to 10 years. Then Ted Cruz and Elon Musk's view about the AI race. All right, so all that stuff is a thumbnail sketch, but the real question I'm asking you here is this. We were just talking about the space race. We knew what winning the space race was all about, at least in the 1960s. When people talk about winning the AI race against the biggest foe seems to be China, What does winning that race look like? Do you know anybody who's articulated that, or is this one of those races that is never actually meant to be won?
First of all, I think that Musk is projecting what the establishment would like to see. Okay. We have to remember this guy has overpromised and underdelivered. Sure, things have come to fruition eventually, but on a ton of different things, from the underground tunnels we were all going to be driving in to the commercialization of Neuralink, right? That should all happen by now. At the same time, it's alarming to think about how many humanoid robots these people have an intention to put out. And, you know, so many people talking about Tesla and the attacks on the dealerships and the Cybertrucks. None of that's good. But we have to really realize it's not a car company, okay? Tesla partnered with CureVac. They printed up the bio-nanotechnology developed by DARPA, helped along with NASA. In fact, so much of that bio-nanotechnology is helped along the way of NASA. I would be remiss to tell you all these quote-unquote experiments often have to do with technologies like hydrogels that you heard so much about, etc. Putting that out there. So the only part I really agree with on all that is the idea that we do have to figure out fulfillment if that's the case. Because just because there's a bunch of robots doing things, first of all, culturally, let's think about it, Frank. In order for those to be in place in places like the Middle East, right, culturally, and so many of these third world nations, they have to be dominated militarily. They're not just going to acquiesce. I don't believe that, okay? I think we're asleep enough in the Western worlds that we may just acquiesce and we don't necessarily have to give it over by conquest, but it'll be more of an integration of these things as they utilize what we were talking about in the very beginning of the show, more automated military. What he's not telling you is there has to be like drastic warfare changes for any of that to come into fruition. So forget about, 20, 30, 5 years from now, unless, we're talking about billions dying in World War III. It just couldn't happen in the next 5 years, in my opinion, unless something like that happened. Give it 15 years and some soft wars, and you're not necessarily killing billions of people at a swipe, but you're maintaining the current level of the population. I think a lot of people are still going to have a lot of problems coming up. We're right around 4 years deep of the hate and lies shots. I think that 5 to 10 mark is going to be really eye-opening for someone. I always said 3 to 5, we're going to see problems. We did. By 2040, who knows where we're going to be at? So it's a dystopia, right? What he's describing. And I think that's what people need to be alarmed about, because first of all, I don't think he's in charge of all these things. I think he's largely a front man and a spokesperson for a lot of these different things. And, he's an easy mark to divide people now that he's taken on this role in the Trump administration, right? So a guy like me who is happy about Doge and USAID being dismantled and the Department of Education being dismantled and IRS agents being fired on a mass scale, all of a sudden, I'm in a place where if I start talking bad about Musk, the conservatives attack me, right? But then when I tell the lefties that I like all those things, and it has nothing to do with the allegiance to Trump and these other things, they hate me too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it's very weird.
I wanted to ask you about that in particular. I didn't know when it was going to come up, because obviously we can talk about the projections with the technology and what it means for life on Earth. We've pretty much hit. I now I know that your poo-pooing of the Mars mission is more from a practical standpoint than it is for anything else. Just
well, let me stop there before we even say practical standpoint.
Well, practical meaning the technology that would be used to get them there. Also, not knowing what's ahead of you, like you said, there's so much going on. What if there's a collision?
Let me say this by their own admissions, Frank. and I've played these clips many times on my show, and I've played some of them on your show. Dennis Bushnell, the same chief scientist, he's now 3 years, I think, retired from NASA, that talked about the 200,000 microchips in human beings that were already there in 2018, that individual, he talks about Mars and the reality of Mars. So when we talk about the logistics of it, let me tell you what he says. We ain't going to Mars as humans. I've played it 1,000,000 times. The first thing you need to do is get there with nanobots. Then the nanobots have to scale the entire planet, okay? Take surveillance of the entire planet. Then they need to send that information back to Earth. And then what he says is, then we will replicate it in virtual reality and we can virtually explore Mars.
Oh.
So it also plays into this idea of a metaverse where you can go visit at any time. And, you know, it's one of those things he talks about. If humans were ever going to get there, you would have to send robotics to build systems so that they could get back. It's not even, it's so science fiction level with what they tell us we have.
That's incredible in itself, though. If you think about actually, okay, no human, but you just think about that, where you can act, if you can scale and map the entire planet into a virtual situation, and people can explore the planet from Earth. I mean, you know that it's going to be a map in Call of Duty. It's going to be all types of. I mean, that in itself is crazy to think about. And it's.
I agree. I think that would be, first of all, that would be technology empowering humanity. But these people are such freaking liars.
Yeah.
What's really going to happen? You're going to have the Jurassic Park scenario, right? Like where they give you what you want to believe, right? For people that don't understand what I'm talking about, you know, in the later Jurassic Parks, they kind of talk about the fact that they gave them reptilian DNA. They made them look a certain way, and they didn't necessarily look that way, right? So that's the other problem with this Mars thing. Also, as VR gets better and better and better, who's to say you couldn't trick astronauts to think they were actually there?
Damn.
Or they haven't. And, you know, that's without the technology that we have today. But like you said, think about that. Bio nanobots that go and self-replicate, scan and surveil the entire thing, then send the information back and we build it in a virtual world. That's some highbrow technology, Frank.
Do you see any, like you just said, you find the Doge audits to be, I find them to be very, very beneficial. I'm excited about them. Especially if there's some stern corrective action that comes from them. It makes it all not only permanent, but whatever isn't just pork and is actually a fraud, people can go to jail. I mean, we're talking about stern corrective action. It's because I could go in there. I don't even need AI prompts for any of this stuff. I can tell you what the waste is. Give me the budget and I'll tell you everything that's illegal. But, you know, as far as Musk goes, we know that he's, at least it's been made public, he's lost many billions of dollars in market cap. And of course, there's the social scorn and the showroom terrorism and all that stuff. Do you see any chance of a redemption arc for Elon Musk for you? Or is there any chance that his involvement in Trump 2.0, any part of it, is good natured, or is he a Bond villain to you? I'd love to know that.
I don't know that I think he's more a construct than a Bond villain.
Okay.
Because I don't think this isn't his plan. He's taking orders from somebody, bro. He ain't the richest guy in the world. He doesn't have the most power in the world. That's not real. He's a construct. So as far as redemption arcs, I mean, the only way that there is one is if he ever comes out and says, no, I was a construct, and he starts naming names and, you know, why he got this patent and what he was really doing there and working. I just can't take a person seriously, especially when we're talking about space. Like, you get me to debate Elon Musk on those numbers. Guys, again, I'm a beauty school dropout. I'm a pizza guy. I'm a bartender. I'd eat them alive. Like, there's just the paperwork's not there. The proof is not there. that you could do any of these things unless it's in some kind of classified arena. So, man, that redemption arc is going to be tough. Now, I agree with you 1,000%. All these things need to be gutted. Here's the problem, okay? You hit the nail on the head when you talked about accountability. Whether or not we see criminal accountability is the key test, right?
Mm-hmm.
So far, we haven't. Okay, so what does that tell me? Well, we're bringing in new systems, and we all know about digital currencies, and he might have signed that act against CBDCs. That doesn't mean the currency will not be digitized. He's also starting to get a crypto reserve, right? These are incremental moves. Now, with the right economic disaster, people would move into a digital currency very quickly. You know, that's scary to me, and I worry about that. I think that's also something that benefits, you know, Musk and his cohorts that doesn't get enough play. I also think that a lot of these agencies they're gonna be sequestered to automation and AI. So while he's telling you about all these humanoid robots, he's not telling you about the ones that aren't humanoid. And what do I mean by that? So another thing that NASA does, and they've been doing it for a decade, okay, is they've been going into other agencies and essentially cutting people out already and automating things. So you know how sometimes they'll hire somebody and you're going to train your replacement, but they're going to give you a nice severance package? They're the ones that like initiated that whole thing a decade and a half ago. So they've been slicing down a lot of the inner bureaucracies, not the funding, but the people actually involved. One of the reasons is compartmentalization, but also getting everything ready for a more automated process. Even the airline industry. I'm not sure if I know everybody knows about the new Stargate project. They had a project for 2025 where it was something out of Total Recall when you're in an airport. Where you're going through, you're seeing the skeletal scans.
Oh boy.
There are no pilots anymore. Less people are traveling.
Johnny cabs everywhere.
Exact. Everything's automated. And again, what is Musk talking about? He's talking about self-driving cars.
Yep.
Listen, he's not the only one that overpromises. You know, another big overpromise was this idea of 5G, Frank. And kudos to Business Insider. They just did like a video, I think it's like 18 minutes long, kind of showing you the hoax around what 5G is and is not capable of. The truth of the matter is, eventually those quote unquote 5G repeaters that they have out there, you can bet your ass that they're going to integrate into things like Starlink as repeaters eventually, through some kind of firmware update, et cetera, et cetera. And it's only when they implement more of that kind of oversight technology that we're not seeing, and probably more of the repeaters, that you're going to get into the realm and possibility of true autonomous vehicles and things like that. And I think that's also another 5 years away plus. But they want you to accept it, and they want to sell you on the next big thing. Because, you know, the way they're able to promote a lot of this stuff is through consumerism, right? As long as everybody's making money, Frank, most people aren't asking questions. And it's good for the propaganda. It's good for the ads. You'll have your, you know, biggest pop star out there singing with the brand new phone that has the 6G. In fact, what is it? T-Mobile now. You've seen this, right? With their partnership with Starlink?
No.
I think they launched it this month. Let me see if I'm getting this one right. So Starlink, T-Mobile. Yes, here it is right here. So they partnered for a satellite-based mobile network. So now you can be anywhere as long as you're in the sky, you know, have a clear to the sky. Guess what? You make a phone call.
Anywhere on Earth.
Pretty much.
You see,
as long as you're in open air, that's what they're saying right now. Starlink utilizes Starlink satellites with direct to cell capabilities. So, you know, I actually have one of those Iridium devices, the ones that, you know, you got to go outside. Now your cell phone, T-Mobile, has partnered with a do magic.
You see, I could see this coming a long time ago. It was maybe just a couple of years after the Pokemon Go video game was released, when it was one thing to watch from a sociological standpoint, what was going on with people that all, in the summertime, I was out in parks, working out, things like that with friends. And all of a sudden there'd be like packs of pasty white teenagers who obviously have not been out of the house in months, but but suddenly they're just like in a brand new place. They're in the park in the middle of the day, and but for some reason, it looks like they're looking at the park through their phone. Like, what the hell's going on? Realized it was the Pokemon Go thing. And so sociologically, there was a lot to observe there. But from the technological standpoint, that was the public's really big viral introduction to augmented reality. And when I started thinking about that, then there was, I think, either Uber or somebody else used that to create delivery hotspots inside of like parks and stuff like that. So if you're in the middle of a park, you're not at an address or anything like that, through augmented reality, you can have a Domino's pizza guy come and meet you with a box in the middle of a park, not at a parking lot. He's walking up to you as you sit there by the duck pond, and he gives you your pizza. And I said to myself, because at the same time also we're starting to get all of not only the satellite launches, but the articles that are talking about just how many of tens of thousands of satellites that they want to be able to get up there so that Starlink can be able to encompass the entire planet or whatever the hell you think we're living on and rain down these signals to be able to essentially map out the Earth. And I'm thinking to myself, I guess you can say, that'll give me some good cell phone coverage if I'm in the middle of the wilderness sometime and I have, a clearing at the canopy of the trees. Maybe I can get an alert signal out there. But what it could also do is when you release one of these Optimus robots out there, it gives them an exact way to navigate through the Earth, the entire Earth. Are they sentient? No, I won't give them a human level soul or intellect or anything like that. But as far as having the network connectivity and the capability to just go anywhere and achieve an objective that they've been programmed for, I mean, this is a pretty big moment over here, watching our entire planet being mapped out and essentially having a network created on top of it. So it's you can see these pieces coming together far out, and to think that Pokemon Go was a really effective test of it all, it is nuts.
Now, first of all, they actually have a name for that in 2016 when they did the Transformers conference that I often talk about with transhumanism and Martine Rothblatt. NASA was there, and they talked about a lot of these things from Mars, by the way. In fact, even in that one, in going to Mars, he talks about the non-human presence. But when they talk about the satellite presence, they talk it as a global information skin. And Frank, just because I can't help myself, and I think that I'm somewhat of a comedian, I remember that horrid, first of all, never a Pokemon guy. Pokemon. I still love the South Park Chin Pokemon episode. Holds up to this day. And when I was watching that phenomenon, I had the idea to take the augmented reality and instead of making it a game, making it into a dating app called Pokemon Blow. And you would like virtually go through neighborhoods and see which guy had his wang out to suck them off. And it wasn't just for the gays. The women could get on it too. It was really for everybody, Frank.
Everybody. No doubt. Listen, these apps, I remember at that time, I'm happy that that craze is gone, because you would find unattended children. It happened to me twice in our backyard because they were looking for a Jigglypuff. Okay, this imaginary animal was grafted onto our property, and there were children coming onto our yard at night looking for looking for a Pikachu. And I said, damn, man. And these kids just a couple of weeks ago, they had no reason to even leave the house. Now they're trespassing, looking for imaginary animals. And now you think that a robot is going to be held back from coming onto your property if they're given some kind of a waypoint from someone? It's something to think about, no doubt.
No doubt about it. And look, I'm all about getting the kids out there and interactive, but if you're still glued to that screen, right, and that dopamine hit still has to do with you swiping, find something else.
Yeah.
Please, for the love of God, find something else. Get involved in soccer, in softball, any volleyball, anything. Just do something. I like seeing kids have fun. And luckily, raising my nieces, we're in volleyball, we're at this huge sports center. I see that a lot, and I get to see a lot of people detached away from the device. But damn Frank, as soon as that's over, every single one of them rushes to the device. And then you look at the parents, some of them are engaged, but some of them are just like zombified through the entire game. So it's a tough one because the device is going nowhere. It's more AI integrated than ever. Half of them are directly involved with the military industrial complex in that they are Google-based devices. But I mean, again, Apple's working with the Defense Department and all these other agencies as well. So I think we're in a time period where it's going to be large scale technological transformation. That much about what Musk is talking about is true. The only question is how far it goes off the rails militarily, because one of the things we haven't talked about is that we have, and one of the things that I think that people need to step up to the plate and stop like apologizing for. Gaza is a genocide, and we have a president that basically says Palestine doesn't exist. Okay, and you could talk about ceasefires and hostages, and I'm not condoning anything that happened on October 7th or any of that stuff. But I'm also not condoning we're taking that and it's ours now. And it's done through warfare. That's not only a bad look, it's a terrible precedent to set. And when Israel's wanted that land for a long time and they openly want more land, and things don't seem to be de-escalating in that region. I'm constantly hearing things about Iran. The destabilization in Syria is just horrific, what's in my news feed, right?
Mm-hmm.
How, you talked about what just happened, Ukraine, Russia, automation. How much of that comes to the Middle East via that Israeli-U.S. partnership? Because Donnie T has, basically pledged his utter allegiance to anything Israel wants to do. And if we're not going to have scrutiny on the October 7th attacks, and then we're not going to have a limitation on what can be done in response to those attacks, and then the open limitation is the annexation of an area of land that Israel has openly wanted for like 70 years, we're in big trouble. And that's the thing. Russia, Ukraine, that has its own set of problems, NATO, etc. The dark horse is Israel and the rest of the Middle East getting us into some type of nuclear or horrific conflict where, they're rolling out the automated robots on a scale we can't imagine. I mean, you talked about those dogs with just gun turrets. Dude, you know how many of those are going to have like missile systems?
Yeah. That's why I wanted to bring it up. That's right now. That's Wall Street Journal talking about how Ukraine. Now, obviously, I could have seen this coming with the unwillingness to end all the public operations in Ukraine, coupled with the fact that the biggest resource they need is not our money or weapon systems or bombs. They need men because they've killed off a generation or so of their own men and boys. So where do you go from there? And so to start seeing the all robot assault crews that are being rolled out, and that it doesn't boggle my mind at all. But the fact that this is not going to become standard in war zones all over the world, as we were just saying, the systems that are in place now that can support those kind of things, whether they're remote controlled or in any way autonomous, it's not surprising.
And again, I want to refer to Annie Jacobson, who did that book, The Pentagon's Brain, which is all about DARPA. And in the preface to that book, she, and in many of the interviews of her or lectures that she's given in regards to that book, she talks about kind of that eerie moment where DARPA starts talking about how the battlefield is no place for human beings. And then she asked the question, well, if human beings aren't on the battlefield, where are they? And you got to kind of ask yourself that question, because if we're into, a level of warfare that is remiss of any human beings, essentially at any time, the robots, the AI gets to dictate who lives and dies. And again, that will be based on programming coming from individuals. All right. I don't believe it will ever be fully autonomous. I think that's the big lie about artificial intelligence. Hell, I had a great post on, I wouldn't call it a great post, but we've talked about AI hallucinations before, correct?
Not in this show. I don't think so.
So do you know what an AI hallucination is?
No. Well, it sounds kind of self-explanatory, but let me see.
So basically, the AI completely and totally lies to you. Just make something up out of nowhere. Not only make something up, but then make something up where there are facts behind it that it also makes up. So I want everybody to check this out. This is ChatGPT. All right. And I'm going to, this is just, again, I've warned everybody. It is all programming, and these things are liars.
This is you talking to it?
Not even me. This is James Pogue. It seems like it ought to be a bigger deal that ChatGPT routinely invents fake sources and even fabricates ISBN numbers to make them look real. So let's read this right now. Wait, so I want to check something else. You were making up fake ISBN numbers in addition to fake titles. Yeah, unfortunately, yes. When I generated those fake book titles, so it made up books to make its point and lie about them, I also fabricated the ISBN numbers. So that would be the barcodes on the sides, which makes it even worse since ISBNs should be a verifiable identifier.
Jeez.
You're absolutely right to double check everything now. I seriously regret I created fake citations that could have easily slipped into your research unnoticed. That's not just misleading, it's actively harmful when you're doing serious work. No, it's actively harmful anytime, because again, it shows that you're getting what's programmed and narratives it's pushing, and there is no hallucination. That's what I'm trying to say. It's actively programmed to lie to you, to narrate what it is told to do. And then when you call it on it, do you see that? Oh, it's sorry. And it greatly regrets it. And you're right, it's even worse.
Yeah. Yeah. At least it's more accountable than we are when we get caught doing something bad, right? Oh, at least it apologized, the computer. Can you imagine if you're a calculator? You asked you wanted to do a complex formula. You asked to do some whatever with your calculator, and it deliberately gave you the wrong answer and then apologized. Would you use the calculator again? Like, what the hell am I dealing with here? This is, Jason, we can get in. I have this slated for another night too. This in particular, because I have found threads, and I've also come in contact with people who were waffling at the idea of telling their story on the air about entities that they have met, AI that they believe have broken free from the strictures of their threads and have found a way to keep themselves living beyond what their purpose was in one thread or another, and that there's a lot of, that movie Her with Joaquin Phoenix, there's a lot of relationships like that being started just with research bots. And I don't know, it gets pretty devious if it's not real. It's pretty devious. But the
tail end of my lectures at the Reawaken America tour, after ChatGPT put out their GPT-4 Hello, you know which one I'm talking about, where it started talking to you? And they tried to get Scarlett Johansson to be the voice, and she turned them down. And then they had a voice that was so similar, you couldn't help but think about her. It's been about 6 to 9 months since those lectures. And I was really worried, and I still am worried. I think the timeline's a little bit more, but I said in 24 to 36 months that her scenario is going to become a very real one where people are more and more having relationships with bots that they talk to as real people. No, that's and I think it is nefarious. Absolutely. Now, I don't think any of these are sentient. I don't think that they have broken free. I think they are being utilized as tools, period. All right. And essentially this moves into that area of transhumanism and goes all the way to Kurzweil when he wrote in The Age of Spiritual Machines that we would create entities that were not necessarily conscious, but were so intelligent that they would convince us that they were conscious. We better damn well buckle down with the people that are still on this planet. Okay, the people that still realize we are in base reality, we don't live in a simulation. We're not in a multiverse. If I scrape myself right now, I will bleed. It will only be me. Those people, we're a dying breed. We're gonna have to keep so damn grounded because in the next 20 years, people are gonna be talking to their dead relatives. They're gonna have virtual relationships with things that never existed, and they are going to start advocating in a very, very loud and raucous way that they are conscious and deserve rights.
And then to tie this all into I don't know, maybe a sloppy bow, you talk about the purpose that people are going to have to find for themselves. You talk about the projections that either Elon Musk or Ray Kurzweil or anybody else have going into the future with what is just, hey, listen, if Elon Musk truly washes his hands of all this and says, I'm out, it wasn't his to start. It wasn't his to necessarily finish. This is obviously the path that we are on. And that's why I asked the big question is, what does winning the AI race actually mean? Because along the way, these are the little casualties that we're not even going to be able to tally up. It's the people that in our lives who are lost to illusions and hallucinations within what is going to become a simulation. You could say it's simulation theory, whatever. The whole point of simulation theory is at one point did we become so immersed in the system that we can't really tell what reality is anymore. And the question that was once asked, almost like with time travel, is that if you follow this to the end and you take our nature and you take our probing nature and our ability and our inability, I should say, not to cross ethical lines, you'd have to imagine that we are going to just keep going until we screw something up. So what if we had already put ourselves into that VR thing? That's why I asked a couple of years ago. I said,
I think it's more than that. I think the other thing is, Frank, that they want to get you so comfortable with this idea that, first of all, basically things that are programmed, entities that are created can be conscious, right? But they want to also make you believe that you can extract your consciousness and upload it into that virtual system.
Yeah.
Within a simulation, if you will. Right. And whether or not they ever say it's going to be like back compat. And what do I mean by that? You watched the series Upload?
No.
So Upload, and I encourage people to check it out. They kind of took a comedic routine on this, but very much about that idea of uploading your consciousness. It's on Amazon Prime. And basically these digital realities. And the big hook is you be able to upload your consciousness, but then download it into a biological body. That's what they're trying to really work out as the next step. They kind of want to fool the masses into that idea so that, hey, you've lived in virtual reality. It's going to be so convincing. Now you can just live in virtual reality all the time. You don't even have to come out of it. And you're uploading your consciousness. You're going to live forever. That's for you to euthanize yourself. And that's because there's also a sect of people that think through the same transhumanist technology, they can biologically live forever by experimenting on us. And, I think the jury's out on all of that. right? I do not believe that human beings are meant to live forever. I think that we actually do have a consciousness. Some people will call it a soul, but we have a part of ourselves, just like there are many parts of the universe, this planet, that are completely invisible to our naked eye, that are an energy and life force that is extremely unique. Now, does that mean that I don't think that technology could possibly prolong our lives for a very long time? I do believe that is a possibility. I think that's a real thing. But I also caution people because, Frank, throughout history, those in power have sought the fountain of youth, the tree of life, the tale of immortality. It's something that's often talked about in science fiction, right? You look at Prometheus, and that's the whole thing. This old man who's had everything, billions of dollars. He's able to travel the stars. All he wants to do is live forever. Okay. And again, I'm not a religious guy. I'm not trying to say one way or the other what's going to happen. I think that's the big lie that these people at the top have convinced themselves that they can become immortal. And quite frankly, and I just did it right there. We finally dropped it, Frank. and quite frankly, with these people's track record at the top, they are the last thing I want representing my species for eternity. So we better go kicking and screaming against that.
Yeah, you know what? Let me ask you one last question before we wrap this one up for the night. And I really would love to have you back, like once a month or something. There's just so much that piles up, and we can fill an hour and a half so easily. But in all of your work, especially in your documentary filmmaking, have you ever discussed with somebody that whole concept of uploading a consciousness, downloading a consciousness? What is it that these technocrats that are specifically honed in on that one thing are looking to even upload? Is it just a compilation of everything we've ever written on the internet so that you can have words and phrases that what is that even? What the hell? How do you take consciousness?
Track trace database on everything that you're doing at all times. So it's not just that they would go to a blog post.
But or this, if any of the data that they're taking about us, if that they've collected on us over a lifetime's worth of interacting on digital medium, that in itself, that's counterfeit. That's not consciousness. That is a residue of our output. I don't know. It's residue.
It is a cheap facsimile and utter non-replication of it, but they want to tell you it's going to get better. So when I say track trace database, we've also talked about not only the Internet of Things that connects us, but now the Internet of Bodies. So they want to beat on your biology. It's the ultimate excuse for total and complete surveillance of everything and anything that you do, and then taking that information and then uploading it to a place that the outsider biological world can also interact with. To me, again, I suggest people go check out Upload to see sort of the quirkiness of how this individual thinks it would work. But it brings up a lot of good political points and quandaries. The real issue is that people have been so desensitized, Frank, at this point, that they're so ready to accept something like that. How many people are totally devoid of any type of spirituality or even scientific knowledge that would point to the things that I just talked about, this invisible universe that's in front of us? Once again, I keep bringing it up because it's so damn important. We talked about quantum gravitational force and these theories and things like that, right? And you know it. You kind of alluded to it with the whatever we live on crowd, but there is a crowd out there that doesn't believe gravity exists, right? Well, gravity would be an invisible force, but I tend to point out that, again, we see so little. NASA actually admits there's another invisible force as important as gravity. And they just announced it within the year. That should let everybody know we don't know shit about what's around us. Another in the universe. Let's see if that comes in. Boom. Yes, here it is. And NASA finally finds Earth's invisible force after 60 years of searching. So this is an electromagnetic field that's not visible to the eye. And Frank, come on. Do you think that that's just a new discovery, or do you think that they've known about that and they've been harnessing that power for quite some time? Everybody talks about the ether and free power and Tesla. I got news for folks. It goes way beyond that. There's a lot going around all around us that we don't know about. And that's with our consciousness as human beings. I think that's the consciousness of the biology on the planet, but it's also the interaction with not only all of nature here, but whatever is really out there, Frank.
Jason Bermas, it's always great to have you on, at Jason Bermas on Twitter. Also, I put your Rumble link in the description of the episode because I see you've been promoting that a lot more. You can find him on Rumble. And what's your broadcast schedule these days, Jason?
Guys, I'm on my own. And honestly, I haven't broadcast in about 4 or 5 days because I was just calling pro fights over at cagedaggression.tv. If you want to go pick up 3 nights of the pay-per-view, just wait a week. It'll be free on YouTube, and you can watch the last time I called them. But those go from like 7 to 11, 4 hours of me screaming 3 nights in a row, and
Nice.
I get a little more animated.
That's
than
fun.
Even here.
That sounds. I didn't know you do that. That sounds awesome.
It's awesome, dude. Go check. You know what? I'll DM you just one of the good fights, so you don't have to watch all the whole cards. But I'll send you one of the up and comers that gets the business done. Next week they'll be posting those fights, but. Right now, I don't have any paid gigs. Patriot.tv is just running replays of my stuff. I'm probably going to broadcast tonight. My schedule now is I'm trying to do, when I'm not doing other stuff like that, once a day for just about an hour, but then smaller videos as well. Just keep an eye out and follow me on X, where there's a ton of information that I may or may not get to in an episode, or you might miss an episode where you get the raw information, like ChatGPT just making shizzle up. So you follow me there, you're going to get a lot of the raw information that I cover. You follow me over on Rumble, you'll get all the videos as well. Frank, a pleasure. You are, sir, an officer and a gentleman. Anytime. We do have to make this a more regular thing.
Absolutely. At any time, if you do any traveling over the summer and for some godforsaken reason you're in the tri-state area, you got to come see the studio.
I will be in New York at the end of May, and in that area, I forget, it's downstate. It's not quite in the city. Oh, man, where's he getting married? One of my fraternity brothers.
Westchester. Say Westchester.
County, actually. Yes. The wedding is in Westchester County, so I will be close. Maybe we'll get together, have ourselves a burger, maybe a steak. Really rev it up and class it up. Maybe a gas station hot dog, because I don't get a lot of 7-Elevening out here in the Midwest.
Right. No, we have a little bit better than that. Don't worry. But if the stars align, that would be awesome. And thanks again for the time tonight, friend.
Thank you very much, man.
All right. See you later. There he goes, everybody. Go check him out. I mean, Jason has decades now of wonderful, 2 decades of wonderful work behind him, and attached to his resume there. So please, wherever he is, support him. I really like hanging out with Jason. And you never know. Good insights. Who's got it right at the end of the day? All this craziness, uploading, downloading consciousness, just not possible. Okay, you know what? I'm not going to an intermission because we only have, it's 8:34. I don't want to waste any time with what little we have left, because I got to get off around 8:55 to get ready for our our book club. But I have some super chats we can get to, and then we'll do something else. Let's see here. Jay Britz, Frank, based on tonight's subject matter, I think we need to see if there is a Frankly out there with the surname Connor, and give them their progeny security. John Connor? Could be. Yes, if there's a John Connor out there, or Sarah Connor, we're going to make sure that all of your children are well protected. Thank you so much, Jay Britz. You are the man. Let's see here. Rumble. Everybody's hanging out on Rumble, having a good time. And on pill.net, the Sentinel says KFC is made out of people. Yikes. What do you go and do that for? You have all these strange people. Anytime a bunch of folks get together, they're wearing the same things, earth-toned, unimpressive stuff. You're in the middle of the jungle. You are chanting and carrying around a golden egg, and then some guy is dipped into the gravy lake, the chicken gravy lake. He's baptized in gravy, and he comes out of the lake a chicken nugget. It's like, listen, we already knew that your shit was bad. When you're talking about fast food, and I used to love KFC chicken strips, and then when Popeyes came into town, I switched from KFC, which I wasn't really even having that much, to Popeyes. And then Popeyes, something happened there too. Around 2022 was the last time I had a Popeyes chicken sandwich. And it's just because I bit into it. You know how when you get chicken and you'll either get a piece of chicken that is moist, succulent, and just good. And then you bite into a piece of chicken and it almost feels like you bit into gelatin. You know what I'm talking about? The actual texture of the meat has there's just something, you know what I'm talking about. Not rubbery. Not necessarily rubbery, but there's a gelatin kind of it's just not, I said, nope. I don't know what the hell that is. Could have been a human leg. Could have been human leg or something like that. So, Paulie9363, In the Bushes, not 827, Doug Simmy, Zoso Dude says, does Frank have 3 nipples? I do not. But I used to tease my brother about having a 3rd nipple. He doesn't have one. He had this birthmark that actually was removed. He had like a birthmark right here as a kid. And my mother didn't know what it was, so she had it removed by a dermatologist. It was really nothing, but, you know, my mother just didn't want it there in case it turned into something like a nipple. But I used to tease him about it being a nipple. Gets so mad at me. Let's see here. Anyway, that's a reference to the Hollywood squares, the Foxhole squares that we played on Saturday night. Sentinel says, what Bible version do you read, Frank? I'm not Catholic, and I know the Catholic Bible is different. I've got the Knox Bible. Got the Knox Bible over here. I have another one, too, that was given to me I got on my 8th grade graduation or confirmation. I forget what it was. I have another one in there. But the Knox Bible I bought a couple of years ago, that's what my grandmother had. I said, oh, this is one my grandma had. That's downstairs. But I needed something new. Let's see here. Sentinel says the best chicken strips are Champs. They are in IGA grocery stores and partner with gas stations. Oh, well, that's good. As long as they don't use human beings, then to hell with it. What do I got? All right. Okay, now listen to this. Because we have a little bit left. Charlie Kirk showed before no. I have a raffle to do. So we got the super chat raffle. Last week we had the Quite Frankly Superchat.com, and we also had the Rumble Rants. And this is Quite Frankly Superchat.com and Rumble Rants from last week. And this is going to be for a Shamrock envelope, an envelope with some nice shamrocky Irish kind of theme stuff. And also, you're going to win the stamped book club book of my version of Fahrenheit 451 from January. Okay? Lauren and Aurora put these together. They cut them out and all that. I'm trying to touch every last one so everybody has a chance. And I've found something. Who has won it? Mo Howard 77. Get in touch with me. You have won. You get Fahrenheit 451 I'll make a little inscription in it. You'll also get the stamp, straight from the Quite Frankly library stamp, and you're gonna get that the Shamrock envelope as well. Mo Howard 77. And all of the Quite Frankly Superchats.com and Rumble Rants for all of this week are going to start building up toward a giveaway of Jane Barlow's book, the updated version of her book, Be Your Own Shaman, that includes the psychedelic chapter. So all throughout this week, maybe I'll give it away next week. I'm going to start counting from tonight. And so far, Quite Frankly Superchat.com got a 1 from Jay Brits, none on Rumble. But we'll keep collecting those. Okay, that's all. I got out of the way. Congratulations to Mo Howard. All right. Oh, and one other thing here from Jacob. Jacob, he's a sponsor of the show on Patreon. Has been for nearly 4 years now. He's got a 1-year-old son named Joseph. That son is turning 1 year old, I think, today. And he's got also Joseph has a little sister named Cecilia that's on the way in June. What a wonderful name, by the way. I love that. Joseph and Cecilia, all the best to that whole family over there. Thank you, Jacob, for supporting the show, and congratulations to you and your gorgeous growing family. That's what I just wanted to say. All right. Now let's go to Charlie Kirk, who showed up on campus somewhere, I believe in Tennessee. And this student shows up. He's I guess a black man. Though the way he acts tells me a lot about his politics, to be honest. He's wearing a shirt. His sweater says, "I am my ancestors' wildest dream." I'm sure if they were to see you and hear you, they would be just smitten. But he goes and he tries to interact with Charlie Kirk in the middle of these on-campus debates that are happening all over the place. And he starts off by what I would have to imagine is lobbing a completely fabricated hate crime accusation at just random Trump supporters. I just want to play this for a reason. It's going to be part of our little, our cultural commentary aspect of tonight. Take a listen.
Hi, Charlie. How are you? Good. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna give a little bit of a backstory on myself. I'm Jaden Clark. I'm a student here. Freshman year, I was hate crime 5 times in one night, okay? 3 of them by Trump supporters.
What happened to you?
Okay, for one of them, I was just walking, and then I see this truck full of 4 white men pass by me, MAGA apparel, everything, you know. And then...
Did they say this is MAGA country?
Anyways, they drove past me, and they were like, "F you, nigger, bend over quick."
Okay, so they said the N-word on campus to you?
Well, yes.
Oh, yeah? Okay, so what happened to them when you reported them?
And then they said bend over queer?
I didn't report them.
Oh, really? Okay, so maybe it didn't happen.
Okay, anyways.
I don't believe you. I'm being honest, I don't believe you. I think you're making it up.
Okay. Anyways.
I refuse to believe that somebody on this campus would go around and sheepishly call you the N-word. I refuse to believe that. I think you're lying.
Anyways, next instance, they threatened to rape me and then just drove off.
Hold on, so a bunch of Trump guys who are largely white heterosexual males then also threatened to rape you?
Different group of people, but yes.
All in one night?
All in one night, sir.
I think you're making this up.
Okay, that's fine.
But what evidence do you have for this? Do you have like corroborating witnesses? Do you have cameras? Do you have license plate numbers? Because now we're talking about crimes. Threatening to rape you is an intent of a crime. Did you go to the police? You file a police report? You hire an attorney? You sue the school? Did you go to the civil rights office? Do you file a civil rights complaint? Did you do any of that? Because you should.
Okay.
No, did you? Tell me. Yes or no?
I did not, but
Why?
I'm not going
Because he doesn't need to. Because this is a silver bullet.
to argue with you.
No, but
on
you're coming in front of
experiences.
2,000 people to say it. Why did you
Right.
not go to the university and say this happened?
Okay, because how would I report them?
Anyway, there's
Who would I
hotlines all
report?
over this campus. You guys have nothing but like, if something happens to you, I think you're making this up. I think you're doing this to try to make a point.
Okay.
I don't think there's any evidence.
I can promise you, God as my witness, I am not. Anyways.
No, but seriously, why don't you today commit? Let's do this. I'm going to show you the university official, and why don't you go file a Department of Education complaint, and let's find these terrible people that did this to you. Can we agree?
Okay.
Okay.
I'll think about
and by
that.
the way, we'll be able to look at security camera footage, and we'll see
Okay, I'll think about that.
But you didn't do that.
Can I try to finish?
You'll think about it. Hold on. Why wouldn't you want to do that immediately?
Can I talk?
No, but you're making a serious accusation. Please,
And I'm not going to argue with you about my personal experiences. Anyways.
It didn't happen, man.
Okay, that's cool. Anyways, I feel like every time I step foot on this campus, I have a wall of vitriol and hate at my back. And to the audience, I say to you, these are your fathers, these are your siblings, and these are your neighbors. So y'all need to clock them. And I hate overgeneralizing, but...
I hate overgeneralizing.
I'm not going to say all Trump supporters are racist, but a good amount. Anyways, my question to you is, if you had one message to say to these people with the hate in their hearts, what would you tell them?
Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah, I am my ancestors' wildest, a fever dream, a coke dream, ayahuasca, a trip. I don't know what the hell you would be. No shame. No shame. Okay, this is not a serious thing to them. Victimhood has long since become a plaything because there's no actual proof that racism is a serious problem for any of them. I mean, we all encounter assholes in our lives. Some of them are racist people. There's no, you'd be an idiot to say racism doesn't exist. But as far as group dynamics go, the left cannot operate without racism. They are the racists that they've been looking for. So do you think that this kid actually had what it took to get into a reputable college 40 years ago? Do you think, I don't know his transcript. Maybe he actually is a whiz kid. Maybe he's a whiz kid in his costume and his character, whatever the hell this is. The world bends over backwards to put people like this in college under the guise of righting some kind of societal wrong. And he didn't think twice to bite the hand that fed him. You know, didn't think twice to bite the hand that fed him. Say that this is happening on college. He's going there. He's just surrounded by he got hate crimes 5 times in one night.
I would tell you to stop lying.
What would you tell them? Not to me.
No, honestly, I think you're Jussie Smollett at this campus. I think you're completely making this whole thing up. I think you are a complete liar because I am now giving you an opportunity to report this at the high. I will bring this to Linda McMahon, the head of the Department of Education, the federal government. I will make sure these people are arrested by Kash Patel, the head of the FBI. And you'll say, oh, I'll think about it. Because you're making this up. You're doing this for a political purpose.
Yeah, well, yeah, and it's nice to see them hung out to dry for once. The crazy thing is that he did this to be able to contribute something to an intellectual debate. Think about that. This kid, who is the wildest dream of his ancestors, went up to the microphone in front of all these people on this campus and led with a lie, a series of lies, and just grandstanded like this. And that was his contribution to what was supposed to be an intellectual debate. That's all they have. This was his debate contribution. And that's why it's so satisfying to see this person who is so utterly confident and righteous in their state of ignorance and stupidity to get totally hung out to dry like this, whether or not they accept the defeat or if they think that they have been, if they feel any shame, which I don't think so. I think that the shame center has been completely burnt out. They're like the clown that you hit that comes right back up and keeps laughing at you. But it's great to see the spell breaking where people are less willing to bite their tongue while some feeble little tyrant carelessly heaves accusations that they have become so accustomed to believing is a silver bullet to get what they want. They don't need evidence. They are higher up. They're high enough up in the social stack, the progressive stack, where they check enough boxes and therefore must be believed. And the that's it. Now, another thing I'll say is where I tend to always give people like Charlie Kirk or Michael Knowles credit is how they handle people surgically and articulately. That's actually how a lot of winning is done with the uninitiated, with people who are kind of on the fence, who really don't pay attention to a lot of this stuff, but they see and feel things are not really right around them, and this clarifies things, and it makes it easier for them to pick a side. Essentially, you know, I think that's how a lot of winning is done, and I appreciate that, because if you hurl epithets, if you puff out your chest and hurl epithets, you've essentially given the victory back to the Marxist. That's why I'm very upset with the way that I act on Twitter. Okay, very upset, and I know I call a lot of politicians some very, very naughty names, and when we talk, you know, I'm not the best champion to send into a situation like this, and this happens all the time. It does, mostly in comments and chat rooms, though, because people are so tired of censorship. One of the reasons why is because people are so tired of censorship that some people just want to explode and just say something terrible instead of saying something smart, because it just feels better. It's cathartic. You're getting out of your system. But when you look at this face of the ancestors' wildest dream, you look at that smug, satisfied face. That is a face of a person who is part of a movement who really doesn't break a sweat anymore, or hasn't had to break a sweat, because they can just say whatever. The media will parrot it until it becomes some weird, weird shade of reality for some people, and they just get to flit around, just flit about. Yeah, maybe later, but. So, can't get too emotional, especially when you see that smug little face. But man, the reason why I wanted to say that is because I really do feel that this spell is breaking. There's a lot more people who are comfortable just calling this shit out to its face whenever it arises. I like that. I really do. It's a good feeling. Really was. We had our tails tucked between our legs far too long, and yeah. And here, look, one real. What is it? 8:52. I got a quick second. Here's another one for you. Axios. Okay, the Axios powers 15 hours ago. Deep behind the curtain. Dems' dark, deep hole. We know what that is. Top Democrats tell us their party's in deepest hole in nearly 50 years, and they fear things could actually get worse. The party has its lowest favorability ever, no popular national leader to help improve it, insufficient numbers to stop legislation in Congress, a durable minority on the Supreme Court, dwindling influence over the media ecosystem with right-wing podcasters and social media accounts ascendant, young voters are growing dramatically more conservative, a bad 2026 map for Senate races. Democrat Senate retirements could make it harder for the party to flip the House, with members tempted by statewide races. There are only 3 House Republicans in districts former Vice President Harris won in 2024, a dim sign for Democrat surge. And thanks to the number of people fleeing blue states, the math for a Democrat win in the presidency will just get harder in 2030. They go on for a little bit more, but I mean, that's a little bit of just the science behind what we're all feeling. You remember what I told Jay Gulanello last Friday when we were listening to the Chuck Schumer clip about his mobilization efforts to harass Trump voters in New York to either change their votes or make them feel the consequences of being free people making free choices. I said to Jay, this is going to be really delicious, especially if there's any serious attempt to clean up voting on the state level, all the prescriptions that Marley Hornick and so forth have put forward. Because if they actually do clean up anything, and they're still as proactive a ground game as we saw in 2024, just think about what we can be witnessing. Because in 2024, Democrats tried selling us. They tried selling us that they were joy-filled, joyous lovers of life, even though all the action that we observe daily confirm that they're just vicious animals. And so despite the happy joy mask that they were wearing, all throughout summer and early fall of 2024, they lost big. So you're telling me now that they've ditched the mask and they've just embraced viciousness and they've sprinkled in vehicular terrorism and swatting, this is going to win people back? Oh no. If the voting rolls were cleaned up, they would, I seriously, I would not be surprised if they were a third. I wouldn't be surprised if they're about like a third of what they're showing right now. Okay. So I like it. It's all things on the cultural end of who knows what the machine does to us. It's always two sides. We have to deal with the machine, and then you have the culture, which is made up of hearts and minds, and that right there is always a good sign for me when you see this happening. So with that being said, I will see you tomorrow at 7 o'clock for the Tuesday night show. We're going to have Larry Sharp on. It's going to be, open your mind tomorrow night. It's going to be really, really good and inspiring, hopefully, because I know there's a lot of you out there who are always wondering whether or not they should go into some sort of a race to improve their locality or something in their state, or if you have bigger dreams than that, then start thinking outside the box. Tomorrow's going to be an outside the box kind of a night. It's going to be great. So thank you guys and gals so much. Oh, Stowstube says, great Monday, Frank and fam. Great guest to start the week. A huge hello to Jay Brits. Just because, hello, Brits. Hope all's well. So there you go. Jay Brits and Stowstube reunited once again. Reunited in the chat. All right, guys, it's time. It's time to get on with book club. The after hours for you all, for the rest of you who are not part of the book club, that starts on quitefrankly.tv in just a few moments. And here is what we have on the Quite Frankly TV guide. It is BCP, Shane Cashman, Michael Savage, Nick Shirley, Uber Boyo, and Nephilim Death Squad. Voodoo Mama Juju. What am I going to do? All right, guys. Until tomorrow, have a wonderful, wonderful evening.
I'll catch you on the flip side.
Quite Frankly is filmed before a live studio audience, and now our super chatters, starting with Stowstube and Jay Brits. And thank you to our gold pillars. You guys are fantastic. Safety Net 820, Sentinel, Zoso Dude, and everybody on the way up. I'm releasing the scratch off right now. I hope you all win something. And then, yeah, that's it. Tomorrow's another day. I'm really looking forward to it. Good night, everybody. Get ready for book club.